Welcome to Moms of the Lou podcast, hosted by and recorded for St. Louis moms. Grab your laundry basket, kick your feet up for nap time, or head out the door for pickup and spend a little time catching up with your favorite St. Louis moms. Hosted by a fellow St. Louis mom, Rebecca Coast, let's dive into our discussion today.
Okay, St. Louis moms, I am so excited to be here with you. My name is Trina Harger. I am the podcast manager for the Moms of the Lou podcast. I am here filling in while Rebecca is on maternity leave with her sweet little baby. So I am so excited about this episode. I am here with Anna Beck, who is one of our contributing writers. And we are going to talk about getting to know your neighbors, which I think is such an important thing, especially for families and really just for anyone. So, but before we get started, Anna, I would love for you to just tell us a little bit more about you, your life in St. Louis, like what do you do, all the things.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you. Oh, and talking about a topic I talk about all the time. So my name is Anna. I live in University City. I have 3 little kids, 7, 5, and 3. I have to think about the ages. So doing the mom thing, loving it. And I also work part-time as an attorney doing estate planning at an office in New City. And then I also have a blog where I share recipes and baking and skincare and healthy living and motherhood. It's kind of just...
I love that.
Yeah, it's just kind of I love a big part of my life as I'm running through the motions of life. A big part of it is just sharing things I love, helping others, repeat.
Yeah. Yes. Oh. Okay. So, were you born in St. Louis or are you a transplant?
So I was not born here. I'm from Central Illinois.
Okay.
Are you from St. Louis?
No, I'm not. I'm from Nebraska, but I went to college in Southern Illinois.
Oh, no.
So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm from Central Illinois originally, and I came to St. Louis during law school for an internship and just fell in love. I moved to Central West End and fell in love and actually moved here after law school and just have been here ever since. My now husband moved. We have kids here. So we've been here almost over 12 years now. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So what are some of your favorite St. Louis spots? I feel like I kind of already know, but I would love for you to share with our listeners your favorite St. Louis spots, like restaurants, places to eat, like fun things to do with your kids.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. This is such a hard question because one of my favorite things about St. Louis is just all the local spots.
Yes.
It's really what drew me to St. Louis and why I love it so much. I cannot pick a favorite. Well, I will pick a favorite for this episode, but if it's a local coffee shop, I love it. I love all the local coffee shops around the city. We live in New City. I love our neighbors down at Taco Buddha. If you haven't been, the best. Yeah, I'm there once a week at least. If I were to pick like my favorite spot in St. Louis since I moved here, and it really hasn't changed, and that is Bowood Farms. Have you been there?
Oh, yeah.
It is
I love Bowood.
Yeah, me too. It's like my oasis. It was just the place I go to that makes me feel good. We eat there for brunch or just walking around the greenhouse. That is probably my top favorite spot in St. Louis. And then with our kids, we kind of just take them everywhere. Farmers markets, the zoo,
Yes.
Anything and everything. And anything local.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we are going to talk about getting to know your neighbors. So I would love to hear from you just some ways that you have gotten connected to your neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean, this is something I talk about all the time because we all live somewhere with people around us, right?
Yeah.
And it can be hard to meet neighbors, especially if you're new or anyway. So I talk about this topic a lot and how to get to know your neighbors. I kind of have 2 answers. The first is how I first started getting to know my neighborhood is just kind of being open to talking to people around you. So, and being open to connecting with people around you. So what I mean by that is like, let's say you're pulling up in the drive and you're running in the house or you're walking your dog or you see someone walking your dog, looking up, smiling, saying hi, maybe they respond with something, having a conversation. I mean, this sounds so simple, but like just talking to your neighbors around you, right? And like waving when you're driving by and, and then once you get talking to your neighbors, maybe you connect with one, maybe you exchange numbers. Then you can be like, hey, do you want to go on a walk? Hey, do you want to come up and have a glass of wine on the porch while the kids play? Hey, are you free on Tuesday? Would you want to go grab coffee? You start these like little conversations, and maybe you connect on social media and you become friends on there. And then before long, you're getting to know one. And then maybe they have a friend down the street you get to know. And just being open to just talking, waving, meeting people. And then the next level that I was going to say is, depending on where you live, some neighborhoods have maybe a women's group, maybe a book club. Maybe there's already these like groups wherever you're living, tap into that. And then what I did, and what I've written about for St. Louis Mom, is my specific neighborhood I live in U City, did not really have a women's group. There was just all these people around me, and I didn't know a lot of them. And I was like, we got to get together.
Yeah.
Like, I got to meet all these, right? You see people walking a baby, or you see people at the park, like, and you don't really have a group where you all can kind of get together. So we do a lot of spontaneous happy hours or get-togethers last minute. But I wanted to make a group. So I kind of made my own women's group. And that has been a big way I've gotten to know my neighbors, and that is just taking a few people I did know. And I made like a private Facebook group. You could do this with anything, but I made a private Facebook group, invited the few people I did know, asked them to invite their neighbors around them. And then that group grew and grew with the people inviting their neighbors. And then I just planned a very casual BYOB happy hour in my backyard. And no joke, like everyone but like 2 people showed up.
Yeah.
And we all went around and introduced ourselves. And from there, we have done walks, and we've done an Easter egg hunt. We've kind of planned events with the women in my neighborhood, all starting with just a very casual happy hour. And now as new people have moved in, we add them to the group. We have an email and you can communicate how you want, but that's like kind of a more extreme way I've gotten to know my neighbors, is starting our women's group in our neighborhood. But bare bones simple, I think just being open to inviting people up on your porch to talk, or meeting to play with, looking up, having conversations.
Saying hello. Yes.
How's your day going? Listening to what they say back, asking questions. You can find out so much with just a neighbor walking their dog.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So then how have you involved your children? I mean, you talked about, the kind of mom's happy hour that you guys have. What are some other ways that you've involved your children in getting to know your neighbors? Because our children are just so outgoing, I feel like. Or some are shy, and that's okay. But, I feel like your neighbors notice the kids. And, the kids like just bring a different positive energy to the neighborhood,
Yeah, that's right. Especially at the beginning, when we've lived in our neighborhood now like a little over 5 years, but especially at the beginning, and now our kids are getting a little bit older, but like we include our kids. So your neighborhood's this casual environment, right? Like it almost becomes like family. So when someone comes over at 5:30 to catch up, they're bringing their kids, and our kids are just playing in the backyard. Different ages, different schools, like none of that matters. Like you're right, they bring this positive energy, and my 7-year-old can play with a baby. I mean, really, they just want to run around, right? And they just want to connect with the neighbors too. So I definitely, when you're getting to know people around you, and especially other moms, I think having that openness that like, yeah, bring the kids, yeah, I don't care that there's a baby. Like, I love babies. Like, and just having that like open door, welcoming. You don't have to look perfect. You can be in your sweats. Go chat while the kids play. We've had many nights of Taco Buddha in our backyard especially when our kids were little, with just neighbors or friends, with the kids, with their kids, our kids. Yeah. It's not perfect, but it's fun.
Right. Yeah. And I think too, like that openness also, right now my kids are 3 and 1. So I'm kind of like getting a little bit out of the trenches and thinking more about, okay, how can I connect with my neighbors and stuff? And even the getting out of the car and bringing the kids to the house. Sometimes I just have to be like, you know what? I'm on a schedule right now, and it's okay if I take a minute or two to talk to my neighbors. Taking that time, I think, is important. And like you said, like that's kind of where you start. And then you get to know each other and get further connected, like find certain things that you both enjoy. And I just love that so much. So let's talk about some challenges in that light. What do you think are some of the things that are keeping us from getting to know our neighbors?
Yeah. Well, I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, and I was the same way, especially when our kids are young. With napping, we're inside, they go to bed early. It feels like all encompassing and also busy with back to school right now. And it can feel like the last thing we have time for is to have a conversation with someone from down the street. And it can be so easy to just put our heads down, focus on our life, and not try to get to know those around us. So I think busyness is like a big obstacle we all face because we're all busy with our own lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what I would say to that is, yeah, we're busy. I get it. It's hard to like have a conversation when I just want to like stare at a wall and not talk to anyone. But sometimes those conversations can lead to people that are like family, can lead to a best friend, can lead to a neighbor that picks up your kids because you're home with the other child napping. Like I have my neighbors on my pickup list.
Yes.
Like, because that's the relationship you can start to form. So whenever you're feeling busy or like, oh, I can't connect with anyone, like I feel that too. We all do. But when you just like rip off the Band-Aid and be awkward, be weird, like that's normal. You can form connections that your busyness kind of melts away when you make time, because you'll really enjoy it. You'll look forward to it. You'll look forward to like unwinding with a friend down the street with your kids playing after it's been a long day. Like sometimes I just need that neighbor to talk to.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think for anyone. But I'm thinking of like transplants, right? Where we don't have family in town.
Yeah.
It's like when I have an emergency, I'm going to my neighbors.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I have a kid that has fever and I need to take them to the hospital, I'm going to see if my neighbor can watch the other kid at home, So especially like from like just a safety standpoint, like I'm here for you, you're here for me type of thing. Like I think it's so important in getting to know our neighbors,
It does become like family. Like if they have a birthday, dropping off a card.
Oh,
you know what I mean? And sometimes you don't know their birthdays and then you might learn them later on. But yeah, just doing those little things. Or if someone moves in down the road, dropping off cookies and a note with your number. Because you never know. Like you said, a transplant that doesn't have family around. Like if someone's pregnant, hey, like you have my number. If anything happens, like I can come over and watch your kids while you go into labor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like those little things we can start to do to create that community around us.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. I was thinking about this too, where kind of like family, you don't get to choose your family. And I was thinking the same thing about neighbors, right?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
You buy a house and then you get to know your neighbors, And I think that's just such a beautiful thing, right? Because it's like we get to choose our communities, we get to choose our friends, but our neighbors are like, I don't know, like gifts, to us.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't ever think about it like that. That's so true. And what a blessing when you connect with one or meet one that you would never have met otherwise if not for the house you bought or the apartment or wherever you're living, It's great.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, I know that you love to bake. I know you love to garden. And I think those are just beautiful things too, like, to include with your neighbors, but I mean, and not saying like that, you need to go start a garden right now or you need to start baking right now. But I just would love for you to talk a little bit about those things.
Yeah. Well, and it does touch on it a little bit. So, for baking's been something I've done since I was little with my mom. But now with kids, the kids are involved. So there's a lot of flour, a lot of mess. It drives my husband crazy sometimes, but flour wipes up very easily.
Yes, it does.
But one thing that we can do, even you don't have to do it, but one thing I've enjoyed doing, especially with kids and baking, is I just involve them, much like meeting other moms, involving our kids. So I'll bake with my kids, and the tie in the neighbor thing, they literally walk and like drop off cookies to our neighbors.
Aw.
So that's been really that's been something that now they just we share. Do they eat them? Who knows? I mean, they're good. We eat them. But you know what I mean? It's just involving them in the kitchen and baking. I very rarely bake solo anymore.
Mhm.
I'm starting to now as my kids get older, but I was in those years of just they were right there with me, and I involved them in everything I did. And then we also would kind of share them. So that also builds connections too, because who doesn't want to see this little 3-year-old with a little note, for the holidays, for Valentine's Day, get them in the kitchen, make something, and then drop it off to
Yes.
the neighbors around.
Yeah.
And then the garden. So my husband's more of the gardener because he's up every morning watering. I'm more of the flowers, and I pick them and enjoy them. Then my husband does all the more of the grunt work, but just because he loves it so much. But we have a garden with herbs and flowers. And that's another thing, planting things in your backyard. Let's say even with hydrangeas, I mean, you could do it with anything, but if you have a lot of plants, a lot of flowers, a lot of tomatoes, dropping those off to your neighbors.
Yeah.
Extra tomatoes. Who doesn't want fresh tomatoes from someone's garden? But
Right.
so enjoying your own garden, your own flowers, and then sharing that with those around you is kind of a beautiful way to enjoy it yourself and bond with the neighbors around you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, that's so sweet.
I know you picked. Remember when you picked those cherries?
I did. Yes. Okay. So backstory here. Anna has a beautiful sour cherry tree.
Yeah, it's a small tree. I think it's a dwarf tree because it is smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my family, we grew up, we call them cherry olives. They're basically pickled cherries, and it only works with sour cherries. And so Anna was like, does anyone want these sour cherries?
Yeah, we had so many.
We're exploding. And so that's how I got, that's how I was brought to your backyard, which, was just so beautiful. And I brought my boys with me.
I remember.
You had those, you have all the toys that they could possibly want to play with,
funny.
The outside toys. And they got to pick with me, which was just so special. And because of you, I was able to pickle these cherries and give them to my family during the summer when I saw them. And it was just so fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because sour cherry, and we were actually going to drop those off to our neighbors, but sour cherries, I was so excited when you wanted to use them because it's not like a tomato, you know what I mean? It's a little.
It's a little weird.
I know, because you have to use them maybe a pie, but not everyone's making pies. Not very many people eat them plain. So it's I have all these cherries, and then, those that understand them and really want them, I'm come pick them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so similarly, we talked about ways to have your little children connect with neighbors. I think other things too is, man, I am so grateful when I get some teenagers ready, knocking on my door, wanting to shovel snow on snowy days. Or rake the leaves,
Or babysit. If you have some, we have a
yeah.
couple babysitter neighbors.
Right.
Just even if you're home, hey, I'll watch, almost like a mom's helper. Hey, I'll come play while, I've done that a few times with some of our neighbors. Or even when we're getting together with other neighbors, and maybe they don't have children. Because here's the thing, some of your neighbors might have older kids, which I actually love connecting with too, because it's just different stages of life. And I just find it so amazing to have friendships with people with all different ages, but sometimes their kids can almost watch your kids while you talk, or
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's another thing too, is how intergenerational your neighborhood can be, right? So I think sometimes we're around our friends who are the same age as us, and we're around our kids, and it's good for our kids to be around other adults and other, more seasoned elderly people in the neighborhood, and interact with people of all ages.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's a good point. Yeah, I agree. We had our women's group. We did open up to just all women. Yeah, kids or not kids, because you're right. There's just so many different people around us, all different ages of kids, and just to kind of get to know everyone. It's neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that I did want to touch on that. So we involve our kids with everything sometimes, but I do think it's important, especially when connecting with other moms around you, to also do things without your kids. So you can do this during the holidays. I did this once with a couple of my neighbors. We went out to dinner just without kids. Go get coffee without kids. Go to brunch without kids. Have those conversations. We love our kids and we want to involve them. But like once in a while, it's good and okay. And we should also do stuff just by ourselves with these neighbors that we're friends with. And a lot of our connections have happened because of we went out, I was like, let's go out to dinner. I asked who wants to go out to dinner. Whoever told me yes, I made a reservation and we went out to dinner. So if anyone is listening to this and they're going to plan a happy hour or going to dinner or going to coffee or going on a walk, I will forewarn you, you might not know if anyone is going to come.
Right.
And every time I do it, I'm like, there might be no one showing up.
And that's okay.
I usually have one, my good friend, I met her because she lives behind me. I'm like, if I know she's coming, we have two of us.
Yes.
But it's okay to do something, and it's okay if no one shows or one person shows, because you'll just really connect with that one person. So don't be afraid no one's going to show. Don't have that stop you from having someone over for coffee or planning a dinner. Just do it, because no matter who comes, it's just worth it. I did want to add that.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Okay. So thank you so much, Anna.
Yeah, this was fun.
Chatting with me today and talking about getting to know your neighbors. I hope for you listeners out there, I hope that it encourages you and just helps you get to know your neighbors.
Yeah.
So, all right, St. Louis moms, we will see you next time for the next episode of Moms of the Lou.
Thanks for listening to Moms of the Lou. We hope it encouraged you and put a pep in your step and helped you get to know our community a little bit better. Be sure to find us on Instagram, st.louis_mom. You can find us on Facebook, St. Louis Mom. You can find us on our website, www.stlouismom.com. In case nobody else tells you today, you're a great mom and you're doing a great job. Chat with you next time.